Hey, what's going on, guys? This is David Cash from Scorched-Planet. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Um, he just put out a 4-minute video yesterday that talked a lot about how humanity is shifting towards this era of alternative facts. And I just wanted to go over a few things. It kind of gave me a little bit of it sparked some creative insights, and I had a little bit of a revelation when thinking about it. First of all, I wanted to just say that Neil deGrasse Tyson is amazing intellectual. I respect everything that he's got to say for the most part. But just like anything social, political, you know, we're here to talk about opinions. We're here to talk about the science behind things. We're here to talk about there's always going to be confliction, no matter what you do with anything. It just is. It's the it's it's the way of humanity. It's just in our nature, in our human nature. We want to argue. We want to fight. Maybe we don't do it consciously. Maybe we do it on a subconscious level, but that's why so many people argue, and they argue over nonsense half the time. Some people even argue a point that they know they're wrong on just to argue. Now, first off, I wanted to just say that I respect Tyson's intelligence, and I listen to everything he's got to say. But I wanted to remind you, Neil, that we're in this position because of science, because of technology. We're in this position where people are denying climate change, and we're in this position that there is climate change because of technology. If we never created the technology that burned fossil fuels for us to use for transportation, for us to use for power, then we wouldn't have this problem. So I think that it's important to remember as a scientist that you have to take all things into consideration. There's people out there that believe in the flat earth. It's not logical to me. I'm pretty well educated. I'm pretty intelligent. I think it makes no sense to me, but if you never go up there into the space and look down at the planet, how are you going to know 100% that the earth isn't flat? Obviously there's ways that we can test this, but not everybody has the capacity for thinking outside of the box. Not everybody has a high capacity for this type of scientific intelligence to be able to use their logic to discern fact from fiction. And to be honest, it's looking like there's more people that don't have this level of intelligence in our society than those that do. I don't have the facts here. I don't have the statistics on IQs and whatnot, and how high people's intelligence and their education is. But I do know one thing. I know that, first of all, anything's possible. Just about anything. At least in this dimension. At least in this universe. In our universe. In our reality. But I'm sure that in an alternate reality somewhere, some of the things that aren't possible here are possible. So, that's also something else to take into consideration. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this physical universe, this physical reality. Now, I don't know what the statistics are, but I know that in order to be in the 99% in testing, I know that there is a 99%. There's a 98%. There's a 97% in IQ, in testing, in intelligence, in education. There's all different types of levels of education and intelligence. And I know that a vast majority don't have that high level of intelligence. We can tell. We can just tell by looking on social media nowadays, by the types of videos that people do on YouTube, by just society as a whole. I mean, look at how many people got out and voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is our president. But he didn't get to be president because, you know, the 30% of us that have a high level of intelligence voted for Donald Trump. We didn't vote for Donald Trump. You know, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote. I didn't vote because I wasn't. That's a whole nother topic. Let's be real. We were given Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Yeah, that's a whole nother story right there. But this is the reality we're living in, Neil, and everybody out there, anybody who's an intellectual that's reading this. This is 2017. This is the reality we're faced with, and what we do right now is going to determine the rest of our lives, the rest of our children's lives, history, maybe even our existence, probably even our existence, you know, because if we keep going the way that we're going, we're not going to have an existence. We're not going to have an Earth, not a habitable one, not for much longer. You know, I don't know if the rate of climate change is going to be fast enough to get rid of us within the next century, but I know eventually it will. I know logic tells me that humans are probably speeding up, are almost definitely speeding up climate change. We don't know the rate. That's one of the things that Republicans, the far right, want to they want to argue, because of course all their industries are based on pollution and, you know, profits coming from. It's the politics is terrible. It's a terrible. That's a whole nother conversation as well. But so let's talk about how technology put us here in the first place. Nikola Tesla developed a wireless power transmitter, a tower that would transmit energy, usable electronic current, to the ionosphere to be used by anybody on the Earth from anywhere. He built one tower in Shoreham, New York, Rocky Point, New York, actually the town over from where I grew up. And he was funded by J.P. Morgan. Now, this is one thing that scientists, you know, for how smart they are when it comes to books and science and math, there's another aspect where scientists are not very good at historically, and that is they're naive. They're naive when it comes to they're almost this innocent. They have this innocence. They just want to create. They're creative. They just want to explore, and they want to lead these scientific explorations and excursions, and they want to be the leader in their field, and they want to just do science, you know, science. But when they do make a great discovery, and something that could possibly be life-changing for civilization, one of the things that they do, unfortunately, is they rush it, and they want to tell somebody immediately, you know, which I understand. It's a human nature thing, you know. You're proud. You want to show the world what you've discovered. You know, it's science. It's information. It's ideas. You know, it's exciting. But in order to fund this power transmitter, he needed to get a lot of funding, which he didn't have. He was a scientist, and he wasn't very good at business. Unfortunately, his ideas were revolutionary, but he didn't have the business sense or the funding to begin with to put these inventions and ideas into a business and capitalize off of them. But lucky for him, the the ever warm-hearted J.P. Morgan took him under his wing and told him, "Listen, I'll fund this whole excursion." I don't know the entire history of how many of his inventions and scientific discoveries were funded by J.P. Morgan, but I know that back then that's how it was done. Scientists were funded by financiers. That's who had all the money, the bankers. A lovely bunch they are. But when J.P. Morgan, after constructing the tower, before beginning experimentation on making it actually work, at a meeting, J.P. Morgan had asked Tesla, "How are we going to charge people for this electricity?" And of course, Nikola Tesla, being naive, told him, "There's no way that we can charge people for it. There's no way to monitor it. You can't track it. You can't charge people for this electricity. Anybody can take it from the atmosphere." So, with that, J.P. Morgan ordered immediately that the tower be knocked down, and that was the end of wireless power transmission. Using free energy devices, by the way, because Nikola Tesla was the first to invent free energy, and I believe as a result, Tesla, a lot of Tesla's work was burned, and he was threatened and whatnot. I'm sure it was horrible. I mean, look at all the people who create free energy nowadays, go missing and die unexpectedly. Big oil is just, and the banks are just, that's a whole nother conversation. So, I wanted to remind everybody watching this video of the percentage of ignorant and uneducated people there are in the world compared to educated and more highly intelligent people. I don't know the exact statistics. I was supposed to look it up before this, but how do we get an exact statistic anyway? I mean, there's people that are educated, in school that are still pretty ignorant. There's all types of people in this world. That's one of the wonderful things about this world, is the complexity of human beings and human nature. There's all types of different people: black, white, Asian, smart, not so smart, good at these one thing, bad at another. Scientists, they're great at scientific theories, and they're great at education and these areas that many regular people, your average Joe, aren't good at. But guess what? You know what they're not good at? They're not good at business. They're not street smart. They're book smart, but they're not street smart. Because guess what? If Nikola Tesla was street smart, on top of his book smarts, there would be no way we would have free energy today. We would. And we wouldn't be in this mess. That was my point. My point is that as a scientist, we're in a really, really, we're hitting a threshold now. People are waking up. Even ignorant people, they're waking up. With the internet is making everybody interconnected. Not only is there an internet, a world wide web of computers, now we're becoming a world wide web of brains. So the more computers that are connected in the more nodes that you have in a system, the more powerful it is. Well, the more brains that you have in a system, the more powerful it is. And people are starting to become smarter at a faster pace, and they're starting to wake up. I estimate that it's how many people are woke by now. It's got to be getting close to 50%. Half the people, at least. Let's contain this to America, because we're a first world country and we're connected. I think that it's getting very dangerously close to 50%, and I think that there is a threshold, and I think that whatever the threshold is, whether it's 50% or it's 55% or it's 60% of the people wake up and realize what's really going on with governments and banks and all this crazy corruption and all this stuff. I think that once the threshold is hit, that we're in a lot of trouble if we don't do something beforehand, because there's going to be a revolution. There is. There's no stopping it. There's no way that there isn't. And I'm scared for what that would look like. being that we have nuclear weapons, we have all these crazy type of weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons. There's weapons, laser weapons. There's weapons that we don't even know exist because we're always 10 years behind what Big Brother has. You know, who knows what they have in Area 51 or one of their other many bases. Um, it's scary to think of. It's scary to think of the world that my children are going to have to grow up in. You know, it's bad enough that hi baby, it's bad enough that the technology is now taking away from human connectedness, physical connectedness. That my children aren't going to know what it was like for me when I was growing up to ride your bike with your friends around the neighborhood with your bike gang, you know, hanging out, playing hide and go seek and manhunt and all that stuff. It's bad enough that they're not going to have that really anymore. But also on top of that, I got to worry about the dangers that our society is setting our children up for in the future. Climate change, all this stuff has to be taken care of right now, and that is the main point that I agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson on. But the one thing that I have to say is that I think that most scientists they're going about it wrong, and I'm glad that some of them, you know, Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think they're friends. They're starting to get more vocal, and they're starting to get more coverage, and they need to start getting more vocal, and they need to start getting more involved. And the only way that we're going to fix this problem is if science is more active. The scientific community is more active in politics, because right now the way it is, it's not working. It's not working. The people who wield the power are uneducated and ignorant, and it's going to cause way more problems than it ever has, because when technology outpaces human intelligence, that is when you're going to have a problem. That is when the nukes start flying and the planet becomes uninhabitable and we all die. So, if you want to change, be that change. That's my best advice. We need more people like that. We need more people like Bill Nye and you know, these science guys. We need them to get involved. You know, this is a call to action. The Science March was on my birthday. I'm born on Earth Day, April 22nd. I just turned 30 2 days ago. Is it 3 days? 3 days now. I think it's the 25th. But that's my little spiel. I have more, but I think this video is getting a little too long, so I'm going to conclude with that. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll leave the video that I'm talking about in the description. All right, it's David Cash from Scorched-Planet out.